The words that came out of my 7-year-old stepson's mouth in that hospital room didn't just freze the doctor te shattere de veriting I told the knau about the man I married. My name is Celeste and 6 months ago I was living what I believed was a perfect life. I was 28, 6 months pregnant with my first kid and married to Donovan, a man was aimed to worship the ground I walked on. For 2 years had been everything I told I wanted in a husband. I was successful, charming and came with an adorable bonus. His 7-year-old son Finn was a motor had passed away when I was just 4. Donovan was a contractor who built custom homes around Indianapolis. He had this way of making me feel like he was the most important person in his world. When we first met at a coffee shop downtown, I was there with Finn, patiently helping him with my work. The sight of this handsome man being so gentle with his little boy made my heart skip a beat. By a urtir date, I was already imagining myself as part of their family. And that dream came true, or so I thought. We had this beautiful suburban home with a picket fence, literally. Donovan quacked Finn's little league team every Saturday. We hosted neighborhood barbecue every old comment on how lucky was to have found such a devoted family man. Finn had slowly warmed up to me over those 2 years, eventually calling me Mama Celeste instead of just Celeste. He'd left my marketing job when he got pre. But as he lay in that hospital bed, bruised and shaken, watching my stepson's small hands tremble as he looked between me and the emergency room door, I realized how wrong he'd been about everything. The fairy tale was about to become a nightmare, and the person who would save my life and my unborn daughter's life would be the bravest 7-year-old I'd ever known. The Ravenna Ken, a no-nonsense emergency physician with keen days, had just finished examining me. She'd asked the standard questions about my fall down the stairs, but I could say something in her expression that told me she wasn't entirely convinced by my answers. Neither was she, honestly. The details of what happened that morning were fuzzy, like trying to remember a dream that kept slipping away the harder you try to grasp it. Finn sat in the chair beside my hospital bed, his little legs swinging back and forth in that way kids do when they're nervous. His dark hair was still messy from sleep, and he was wearing his favorite superhero pajamas, the honest with Captain America on them. Ed always said he wanted to be a hero when he grew up. He just never imagined he'd have to become on so soon. Mama Celeste, he whispered, his voice so small he had to lean closer to him. Are you going to be okay? Is my baby sister going to be okay? The way he said it with such genuine concern and fear in his voice broke my heart. This little boy had already lost on a motor. The thought of losing a noterone was written all over his face. But there was something else there too, something that made my stomach twist with dread. It was guilt. We would a 7-year-old felt guilty about his stepmother falling down the stairs. That's when the R came walked back into the room, her expression serious. She glanced at Finn, then at me and the cold say making some kind of mental calculation. This wasn't her first rodeo. In her years working emergency medicine, she'd probably seen every kind of domestic situation imaginable. She knew when something didn't add up. Celeste, she sighed gently, is there anything else you want to tell me about what happened this morning? Before I could answer, Finn looked up at her with tears starting to spill down his cheeks. His bottom lip was trembling and he kept glancing toward the door like he was expecting Someone to burst through it at any moment. That Someone he realized with growing horror was his father, my husband, the man he'd trusted with my heart, my future and my life. And that's when Finn asked the question that would change everything. Let me take you back to Otis all began, because understanding where I came from makes what happened next even more devastating. 2 years ago I was a completely different person. I was 26 working as a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized tech company in downtown Indianapolis and honestly, I was pretty content with my single life. I had my own apartment, a decent savings account and plans to maybe get a dog. Romance wasn't really on my radar after a string of disappointing relationships that had left me feeling like my eBay just wasn't cut out for the wall. Then I met Donovan at Green Coffee on Mass Ave on a rainy Thursday morning in October. It ducked into escape a sudden downpour, and there I was at a corner table helping this adorable little boy with what looked like first grade math work. The patience in his voice as he explained addition problems, the way he celebrated when the kid got on a rigged, the gentle way he pushed the boy's hair out of his eyes, he was completely captivated. When Finn spilled his hot chocolate all over the ear papers instead of getting frustrated, Donovan just laughed and sighed, well buddy, looks like we get to start fresh, so met him that's exactly what we need. He caught me staring and smiled and he felt something he hadn't felt in years, ope. He introduced himself when he came to the counter for napkins. I'm Donovan and this chocolate-covered monster is my son Finn. Finn jiggled and waved chili from behind his dad's legs. We're working on becoming math geniuses, but apparently we're better at making messes. I found myself saying, I used to tutor kids in college. Mindy if I take a look, and just like that, I was sitting at their table, helping Finn with his homework while Donovan wacked with his amazed expression like I was performing miracles instead of just explaining that 2 plus 2 equals 4. That first conversation lasted 3 hours. Donovan told me about losing his wife Emma in a car accident 3 years earlier, or had been rising Finn on his own while building his contracting business. The way I talked about Emma was beautiful, no bitter ex-husband stories, just genuine grief and respect for the mother of his killed. It seemed like a man who understood the value of family, what been through the worst thing imaginable and come out stronger. Finn's been asking me when he's going to get a new mommy, Donovan sighed quietly while his son colored on a napkin. I kept telling him that some things can't be rushed, that the right person will come along when we least expect it. He looked at me when he said it and he felt like he was melting. Our first official date was at the Children's Museum with Finn as our chaperone. I watched Donovan push his son on the carousel, both of them lounging until their faces turned red and I knew he was falling hard. By Christmas, I was spending weekends at the house, helping Finn build Lego castles and learning how to make Donovan's famous pancakes. The proposal came exactly on a year after we met back at that same coffee shop. Donovan had arranged for the staff to recreate it at rainy Thursday morning, complete with my homework for Finn. When I got down on a knee, Finn handed me a ring pop and asked, "Will you be my new mommy?" I was crying too hard to speak, so I just nodded and dodged them both. Our wedding was small and perfect. Finn walked me down the aisle, proudly wearing a miniature version of his father's suit. During our vows, he promised not just to love Donovan, but to love and protect Finn as if he were my own son. The way Donovan says filled with tears when he said those words convinced me he'd found my forever family. The first year of marriage was everything he'd dreamed of. Donovan would leave a little notice in my lunch bag, surprise me with flowers on random Tuesdays, and never failed to tell me he was beautiful even when he was sick with morning sickness. He was incredibly involved with Finn's school, never missed a parent-care conference or a soccer game. Our house was always full of laughter. When he got pregnant, Donovan was over the moon. I immediately started planning the nursery, talking to my belly very neat and reading parenting books like I was studying for finals. Finn was equally excited about becoming a big brother. I'm going to teach her everything, I'd say, patting my growing stomach. How to read the bikes and catch bugs and be brave when it's dark. I'd left my job at 5 months pregnant, partly because the morning sickness was brutal, but mostly because Donovan insisted we could afford for me to stay home and focus on preparing for the baby. You shouldn't have to stress about work when you're growing our daughter, I'd say. I make enough to take care of all 3 of you. Looking back now, I can say the red flags I missed. I gradually started managing all our finances, saying it was easier if I handled everything. The way I get irritated if I talked to my sister Valencia for too long, claiming I just missed me when I was distracted. Finn so met him as flinked when Donovan's voice got too loud during homework time, took Donovan would quickly soften and apologize. But in the moment, these things seemed like minor quirks in an otherwise perfect relationship. I was so grateful to have found love again, so happy to give Finn the mother figure had been missing, so excited about becoming a mom myself. I ignored my instincts when they whispered that so mating wasn't quite rigged. The morning everything changed started like any other Tuesday. Donovan had left early for a job site, kissing me goodbye and telling me to rest. He was in the nursery folding teeny pink on his ears and arranging stuffed animals when he heard Finn calling my name from downstairs. But it wasn't his usual careful voice. It was panicked, desperate and filled with fear. That's when my perfect life began to crumble, and he started to learn who my husband really was. When he heard Finn calling for help, my first instinct was to rush downstairs. He was 6 months pregnant, moving slower than usual, but the panic in his voice made me forget everything else. I remember gripping the banister at the top of our staircase, looking down at our beautiful hardwood foyer and then nothing. The next thing I knew, I was walking up at the bottom of those same stairs with pain shooting through my entire body. Finn's face was the first thing I saw, his little hands hovering over me like he wanted to help but was afraid to touch me. "Mama Celeste, please wake up," he kept repeating, his voice cracking with tears. I called 911 like Daddy taught me. "They're coming, please don't die like Mommy Emma did." The terror in his eyes cut through my confusion. My first coherent thought wasn't about my own pain, it was about my baby. I pressed my hands to my stomach, feeling for anything that something was wrong. There was pain in my side, a day packet that made me nauseous, but I could still feel her moving, thank God. The baby whispered to Finn, "Is she okay?" "I don't know," he sobbed. "There is blood on your head and you wouldn't wake up." I was so scared. The ambulance arrived within minutes, though it felt like hours. As the paramedics worked on me, I kept trying to piace to getter what had happened. I remembered folding baby clothes in nurseri. I remembered airing fin call my name. But everything between standing at the top of the stairs and walking up at the bottom was just gone, like Someone had erased those crucial seconds from my memory. During the ride to the hospital, Finn held my hand so tightly his little knuckles turned white. I'm sorry, Mama Celeste, kept whispering. I'm so sorry, this is all my fault. Sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong, I managed to say through the oxygen mask. Accidents happen, you were so brave calling 911. But a just shock, he said, tears streaming down his face. You don't understand, it's my fault you fell, it's my fault you were hurt. The paramedic a kind woman named Lisa tried to reassure him. On a pregnant lady sometimes jet diziam fall, it's nobody's fault. But Finn wouldn't stop apologizing, wouldn't stop looking at me with those guilt-ridden e stat semed far too old for his 7-year-old face. At the hospital DR, Ravenna can talk charge immediately. She was probably in her 40s with graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and a kind of calm confidence that made you trust her instantly. While she examined me, she asked the usual questions about the fall, but he cold her taking note of things that didn't quite add up. These bruises on your shoulder and upper arm, she said, gently probing the tender spots. They don't really match a typical fall pattern. Can you tell me exactly how you landed? I tried to remember, but it was like grasping at smoke. I honestly don't know DR. Can 1 minute I was standing, the next I was at the bottom, ma I hit the banister on the way down. She nodded, but I caught her exchanging a look with Nurse Patricia, an older woman who'd been working in TR for decades. Patricia had that same ital expression that suggested she knew more about what really happened than I did. That's when Donovan burst through the door like a man whose world was falling apart. His hair was disheveled, his work clothes covered in sawdust, and his face was a mask of concern and panic. Celeste, oh my God, are you okay? What happened? I rushed to my bedside, taking my free hand and kissing my knuckles. I got air as fast as I could. When I got the call that you'd fallen, I dropped everything. You scared me to death. I'm okay, I said, Togi wasn't entirely sure that was true. The baby seems to be fine too. Thank God, he breathed, pressing his forehead against our joined hands. I don't know what I'd do if I lost you both. You have to be more careful, honey. You know how clumsy you jet when you were pregnant. Something about that comment rubbed me the wrong way, but I couldn't put my finger on why. I'd never been particularly clumsy before, pregnant or not. But Donovan was so upset, so clearly shaken by what had happened that he pushed the dog aside. How did she fall? I asked Finn, who had gone completely silent since his father arrived. Were you there when it happened? Finn's entire body tensed up. He looked at me, then at his father, then down at his hands. He was downstairs. He heard her call my name, and then he heard a big noise. You heard her call your name, Donovan's voice sharpened slightly. He thought you called her for help. The confusion on Finn's face broke my heart. He did call for help after she fell. The Ken was watching this exchange with increasing interest. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but probing. Finn, did you say your stepmom fall? Finn glanced at his father and he saw something pass between them a look he couldn't interpret, but that made my stomach clench with unease. No, Finn sighed quietly. He was in the kitchen. But earlier Ed said called 911 like Daddy talked to him, which suggested Ed seen the fall happen. The inconsistency was small, but it nudged at me. Donovan seemed to relax. He gets confused when he scared, he explained to DR. Ken, Finn, we don't you go get a snack from the vending machine. I need to talk to the doctors about Mama Celeste. I want to stay with her, Finn sighed, moving closer to my bed. God, Donovan's voice carried an edge I'd rarely heard before. No. Finn flinked and reluctantly walked toward the door, but not before looking back at me with an expression he'll never forget. It was fear, but not fear of losing me. It was fear of something else entirely. After Finn left, Nurse Patricia approached my bed. I've been working in emergency medicine for 23 years. I've seen a lot of accidents, and I've seen a lot of things that weren't accidents. Is there anything you want to tell us about what really happened this morning? Donovan's hand tightened on mine. What are you implying? My wife fell down the stairs, she's pregnant and probably got dizzy. Why are you making this sound suspicious? I'm not making anything sound like anything, Patricia sighed calmly. I'm just making sure all our patients get the care they need. The tension in the room was suffocating. Donovan's concern was starting to feel performative like he was putting on a show for everyone's benefit, and where he was fin, it been gone for nearly 20 minutes, which was too long for a simple vending machine trip. That's when he started to remember fragments, not of falling but of arguing. Donovan's voice raised in anger, something about money, about my sister, about how he was always causing problems. The memories were fuzzy and incomplete, but they were there, lurking just beneath the surface of my consciousness. The R can returned with test results showing that Willie had a mild concussion and some internal bruising, the baby appeared to be unarmed, but instead of feeling relieved he felt increasingly uneasy. Something was wrong with this picture and everyone in the room except Donovan seemed to sense it. That's when Finn finally came back, clutching a bag of chips he clearly hadn't opened. His eyes were red like it been crying and he wouldn't look at his father. He climbed back into the chair beside my bed and whispered, Mama Celeste, are you going to be okay, really okay? Yes, sweet heart, he assured him, but me and your baby sister are going to be fine. But as he said those words, watching Finn's face crumple with relief and something else guilt, Feari realized that maybe nothing was going to be fine. Maybe nothing had been fine for a long time, and he'd just been too blind to say it. The fragments of memory that had been teasing the edges of my consciousness suddenly crashed together like puzzle pieces falling into place. It happened while I was watching Finn's face, saying the way I kept glancing between me and the door, the way his small body seemed to curling on itself whenever his father spoke. That's when it hit me not the memory of falling, but the memory of being pushed. He called Donovan's face, twisted with rage, as he screamed at me about the credit cards that he had found in my purse. $300 at Target, what the hell did you buy that we needed so badly? His voice had been venomous, nothing like the gentle tone he used when others were around. It tried to explain that it bought things for the nursery, clothes for Finn who was growing out of everything, groceries for the week, normal things that normal families needed, but he wasn't listening. He was spiraling into one of his modes, the kind that had been happening more frequently since he'd gotten pregnant. You're just like Emma, Ed snarled. Always spending money we don't have, always thinking about yourself first. Maybe he made a mistake marrying another selfish woman. The words had cut deep because Emma was sacred in our house. She was the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the woman he could never measure up to no matter how hard he tried. But that morning his comparison felt different, crueler, like he was using her memory as a weapon against me. That's not fair, Donovan, he'd sighed, standing up from where he'd been folding baby clothes. Emma's not here to defend herself, and it's not rigged to use her against me. That's when his expression had changed completely. The mask of the loving husband slipped away and he saw something that terrified me. Cold calculation, pure anger, the face of a man who was capable of anything. Don't you dare talk about my wife, Ed sighed, stepping closer to me. You're not here, you'll never be here, and now you're going to ruin everything just like she tried to do. It backed toward the nursery door, suddenly afraid in my own home. What are you talking about? Emma died in a car accident, she didn't ruin anything. Didn't she? His laugh was bitter and frightening. Always questioning my decisions, always wanting to know where every penny went, always threatening to take Finn and leave if he didn't change. Ed followed me to the top of the stairs, his voice jetting louder with each word. Well, she got what was coming to her, didn't she? The implication in his words made my blood run cold, but before he could process what he was suggesting about Emma's death, Ed reacted for me. And now you're doing the same thing, but he won't let you destroy his family. It tried to move away from him, tried to jet back to the safety of the nursery, but he was faster. His hand had grabbed my shoulder, his grip ticked the nog to bruise. Donovan, you're scaring me, let go. You should be scared, Ed sighed, and then Ed shoved me hard toward the stairs. The memory came flooding back as he lay in that hospital bed, watching my stepson try to work up the courage to tell the truth. Donovan hadn't just pushed me on it deliberately, knowing he was pregnant, knowing he could die, and somehow Finn had seen it happen. The R must have noticed the change in my expression because she moved closer to my bed. Celeste, are you remembering something? Before he could answer, Finn looked up at both of us with tears streaming down his face. His bottom lip was trembling, but there was a determination in his eyes that reminded me we'd fallen in love with this little boy in the first place. He was brave, just like his superhero pajamas proclaimed. I have to tell, he whispered. Even if Daddy gets mad, I have to tell the truth. Tell what, sweetheart, dear, Ken asked gently, kneeling down so she was at a level with Finn. About what really happened to Mama Celeste, about what he saw. e loke dat me wit such pain inision gayes. I was supposed to go to school but I forgot my backpack upstairs. I was coming back down when I heard daddy yelling. My heart started racing. This 7-year-old had witnessed everything and had been carrying that burden alone all morning. No wonder I felt guilty. No wonder I'd been apologizing. I don't stairs fin continued his voice getting stronger. Daddy was really mad, ma der tani ever seen him. He was saying me and things about Mama Celeste and about my first mommy too. DR Ken shot a look at Nurse Patricia, who immediately moved toward the door. They both knew where it is was adding. What did you say to him, Finn? DR Ken asked. Daddy pushed her inside towards tumbling out in a rush. He grabbed Mama Celeste's arm and pushed her toward the stairs. She tried to catch herself, but she fell all the way down. Her head hit the floor really hard. The silence that followed was deafening. I felt like I couldn't breathe, not just from the shock of having my recovered memory confirmed, but from the realization that this little boy had been protecting me all morning. Ed called 911 stayed with me until help arrived, and then lied to his father to keep me safe. We didn't you tell anyone before? No, DR Ken asked softly. Finn's voice broke as he answered. Because Daddy said if he ever told anyone bad things about him, they'd take me away and put me with strangers. He said if he was a good boy and kept our family secrets, we could all stay together. But then Mama Celeste got hurt really bad and he was scared she might die like my first mommy did. The pieces were falling into place in the most horrific way possible. A mascara accident might not have been an accident at all. Donovan had been controlling and manipulating both his wives, and when they threatened to leave or expose him, had found ways to silence them permanently. Finn, inside my voice arse with emotion, you are the bravest person I know, thank you for telling the truth. That's when we heard footsteps in the hallway. Donovan's voice carried through the partially open door as he talked to Someone on his phone. Yeah, she's fine, just a little fall. Woman jet clumsy when they are pregnant, you know, will probably take her home later today. Finn sentire body tensed up and he moved closer to my bed. DR Ken stood up quickly and motioned to Nurse Patricia, who nodded and slipped out of the room. He called the other talking quietly to Someone in the hallway, probably calling security or the police. Dr. Finn whispered urgently, should I tell you what Daddy did? Should I tell you the truth even though he'll be really mad at me? DR Ken knelt back down and took Finn's small hands in hers. Finn, telling the truth is always the right thing to do, especially when Someone you love is in danger. You are not in trouble and I promise we won't let anything bad happen to you for being honest. Finn looked at me one more time and he nodded encouragingly despite the fear coursing through my veins. It's okay, sweetheart, tell her everything. Just as Finn opened his mouth to speak again, the door swung open and Donovan walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing that same concerned husband mask had perfected over the years. Sorry it took so long. The line at the cafeteria was ridiculous. How are my girls doing? The casual normalcy of his voice, knowing what he now knew about what had done to me and possibly to Emma, made my skin crawl. But Finn, my brave little superhero, looked directly at his father and then turned to the air. Can we resolve that talk, my breath away? Doctor aside, his voice clear and strong despite his tears. Should I tell you what Daddy did to Mama Celeste this morning? The coffee cup slipped from Donovan's hand and crashed to the floor, sending out liquid splashing across the white hospital tiles. For a split second, his carefully constructed mask of concern wavered, and he saw a flash of panic in his eyes before he quickly recovered. Finn, buddy, what are you talking about? He sighed with a forced laugh, kneeling down to clean up the spilled coffee. You know Mama Celeste fell down the stairs. You called 911, remember? But Finn didn't back down. Instead, he squatted his chair closer to my hospital bed and looked directly at the air. Ken, my daddy pushed Mama Celeste down the stairs on purpose. I saw him do it. The words sung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. DR Ken's expression remained professionally calm, but he could see her finger moving toward the call button on my bed rail. Nurse Patricia had quietly returned and was now standing by the door, effectively blocking Donovan's exit. That's ridiculous, Donovan sighed, his voice attacking on a sharper edge. At 7 years old, kids get confused when they are scared. Finn, tell the doctor you made a mistake. But Finn shook his head, tears streaming down his face but his voice growing stronger. I didn't make a mistake, Daddy. I was coming downstairs to get my backpack and I heard you yelling at Mama Celeste. You were saying mean things about her spending money and about my first mommy too. Donovan sentire de mianor began to shift, te loving fater act was cracking, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. Fin, that's enog, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do fins voice cracked with emotion. Jo grabbe der arm realitigt and jo pushe der toward the stairs. She tried to catch herself on the railing but she fell anyway. Had made a really loud sound when it hit the floor. The air can stepped between Donovan and Finn's chair. Sir, in ed to step back and remain calm while we sort this out. Sort what out? Donovan's voice was rising now and he could say him struggling to maintain control. My son is having some kind of breakdown because is traumatized by saying his stepmother hurt. Is making up stories. I'm not making up stories, Finn shouted, jumping up from his chair. I saw you push her, and then you told me if you ever told anyone the truth about our family bad people would take me away forever. That's when something in Donovan snapped completely. The mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Your little brat snarled, his face contorting with rage. I told you to keep your mouth shut. Do you have any idea what you've just done? I took a step toward Finn, but he found my voice. Don't you dare touch him, he sighed, struggling to sit up despite the pain shooting through my ribs. Stay away from him, Donovan. Oh no, you remember, do you? His laugh was bitter and frightening. Convenient how your memory comes back rigged when my son decides to play hero. The Ken had pressed the call button and he called the rapid footsteps in the hallway. Security to room 347. Security to room 347, Code Grey. Code Grey, Donovan say started toward the door. What's Code Grey? It means we have a situation that requires immediate intervention, the Ken sighed calmly. Sir, in need you to take several steps back and put your hands where I can see them. Instead of complying, Donovan moved closer to my bed. This is insane. You're all acting like I'm some kind of criminal. I'm the victim here. My wife fell down the stairs and now you're listening to the confused ramblings of a traumatized kid. Then explained the bruising pattern on her shoulder and up her arm, the Ken sighed. Those injuries are consistent with someone grabbing her forcefully, not with a simple fall. Donovan's jaw tightened. She bruises easily when she's pregnant, always as. And explain why your son is so terrified of your rigged no that is literally shocking, Nurse Patricia added from her position by the door. That's when Finn did something that broke my heart and filled me with pride at the same time. He looked directly at his father, this man who had terrorized and manipulated him, and said in the clearest voice I'd ever heard from him, I'm not scared anymore, Daddy. I'm tired of keeping secrets that hurt people I love. Donovan's face went with fury. You ungrateful little brat, after everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me by destroying our family. You destroyed our family when you hurt Mama Celeste, Finn replied, and the strength in his small voice was extraordinary, and maybe you destroyed it before when you hurt my first mommy too. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Donovan seemed stunned by his 7-year-old son's words, but then his expression changed to something he'd never seen before, pure, cold calculation mixed with desperate panic. You don't know what you're talking about, he sighed quietly, but there was venom in his voice. Emma died in a car accident that had nothing to do with me. Then why did you tell Mama Celeste that she got what was coming to her? Finn asked, and he realized they'd heard even more of that morning's argument than he'd known. Why did you say maybe you made a mistake marrying another selfish woman? Donovan's hands clenched into fists. Because he did make a mistake both times. Women are all the same manipulative greedy, always threatening to leave when they don't get their way. That's when hospital security burst through the door, followed closely by 2 police officers who must have been in the building on another call. The sudden presence of authority figures seemed to shock Donovan back to reality, and he watched him try to flip the switch back to concerned husband mode. Thank God you're here, sighed to the officers. There has been some kind of misunderstanding. My wife fell down the stairs this morning and now everyone is acting like he had something to do with it. But Officer Rodriguez, a middle-aged woman with kind but sharp eyes, looked around the room and talked in the scene Finn pressed against my hospital bed, the Ken positioned protectively between father and son, Nurse Patricia blocking the exit, and me with bruises that clearly didn't match a simple fall. Sir, we're going to need you to step outside the window so we can sort this out, she sighed calmly. This is ridiculous, Donovan protested, but his voice was losing its strength. My son is confused, my wife has a head injury, nobody's thinking clearly. Officer Rodriguez's partner Officer Kim approached Finn gently. Hey Tere, buddy, can you tell me what happened this morning? Finn looked at me and he nodded encouragingly despite the terror coursing through my veins. My daddy pushed my stepmama down the stairs because he was mad about money, Finn sighed clearly. Then he told me if he told anyone the truth, bad people would take me away. But he don't want to keep secrets anymore because secrets hurt people. That's Ali, Donovan exploded, lunging toward Finn before a security could stop him. You're putting words in his mouth, he's just a kid. But as the security guards restrained him, his true nature was on full display for everyone to see. Gone was any pretense of being a loving father or concerned husband. In his place was a man whose entire world was crumbling because a 7-year-old had found the courage to tell the truth. You have no idea what you've done, snarled at Finn as the officers moved to handcuff him. You think these people care about you, you think she loves you, wait until they find out what really happened to your mother, wait until they know the truth about everything. But Finn, my brave little superhero, looked his father straight in the eye and sighed, he already know the truth, daddy, and no everyone else does too. As they led Donovan away still shouting threats and protestations of innocence, Finn climbed into the hospital bed beside me and curled up against my side. Did he do the right thing, Mama Celeste? He whispered. He wrapped my arms around him as gently as he could, feeling my daughter move in my belly as if she too wanted to protect this incredible little boy. You did more tante right thing, sweetheart, he whispered back. You saved our lives. The weeks that followed Donovan's arrest were a whirlwind of police interviews, court appearances and the yelling that seemed impossible at first. The physical injuries from my fall healed relatively quickly, but the emotional scars removed per. Learning that the man he'd loved and trusted had deliberately tried to harm me and our unborn killed was devastating. But watching Finn's courage throughout the entire ordeal reminded me every day that so many test. Child Protective Service immediately placed Finn in my care, which was both a blessing and a responsibility I'd never imagined facing alone. His biological mother Emma had no living relatives, and Donovan's parents had good contact with him years earlier after what they called concerning behavior during his first marriage. It turned out he wasn't the first person to see red flags that he'd chosen to ignore. The investigation into Emma's death was reopened almost immediately. What had been ruled a single car accident 3 years earlier suddenly looked much more suspicious when investigators learned about Donovan's pattern of abuse. Emma's car had veered off a rural road late at night after she'd attended a support group meeting for domestic violence survivors. The timing seemed less coincidental once police discovered that Donovan had somehow accessed her. While they couldn't prove beyond a doubt that it tampered with her car, they found no evidence to suggest that Emma had been planning to leave him and take Finn with her. She'd opened a secret bank account, contacted a divorce lawyer and had even looked at apartments in another city. Just like me, she'd discovered that the man she married wasn't who he pretended to be. Unlike me, she hadn't had a 7-year-old hero to save her life. In struggled with nightmares and anxiety into the first few months. Ed woke up screaming, convinced that his father had somehow escaped from jail and was coming toward us. We found an excellent child therapist named DR. Martinez was specialized in trauma recovery for kids. Through play therapy and lots of patience, Finn slowly began to understand that none of what happened was his fault and that telling the truth had been the bravest thing. My daughter Luna was born healthy and perfect on a crisp October morning, exactly 4 months after that horrible day in the hospital. Finn was there for the delivery, holding my hand and promising his baby sister that he would always protect her. The moment the doctor placed her in my arms, I saw Finn's face light up with pure joy and love. This little family that trauma had created was becoming something beautiful. The trial was grueling but necessary. Donovan was charged with domestic violence, child endangerment, and attempted murder. His defense attorney tried to paint me as an unstable woman who manipulated a confused child into lying about his father, but the evidence was overwhelming. The bruising patterns, the medical testimony, and most importantly, Finn's clear and consistent account of what he'd witnessed. When it came time for Finn to testify, he was terrified of putting him through more trauma. But he insisted he wanted to tell his story to the judge, walking my 80-year-old stepson back truth to power, describing exactly what he'd seen without wavering or backing down was one of the proudest moments of my life. The judge later said that in 30 years on the bench, he'd rarely seen such courage from someone so young. Donovan was sentenced to 12 years in prison and permanently lost all parental rights to Finn. During the sentencing hearing, he finally dropped all pretense and showed his true self to the courtroom. He blamed me for turning his son against him, blamed Emma for forcing his hand, and blamed everyone except himself for the choices he'd made. The man he'd once thought he loved was gone, replaced by someone he didn't recognize and never really had known. But the most beautiful part of this story isn't about justice or legal consequences. It's about the family that grew from the ashes of betrayal and abuse. Fin legalli became my son through adoption proceedings state initiated himself. Onte date paperwork was finalized e asked if a cold changes last name to match mine and Lunas. I wante verione took no were a real family, aside. 2 years later I met River, a social worker was specialized in helping families affected by domestic violence. E understood our story without judgment and fell in love with all three of us. When I proposed, they asked Finn's permission first, and Finn's response was perfect. As long as you promise never to hurt Mama Celeste or Luna, and as long as you understand that him the big brother who protects this family. Today Finn is 10 years old and thriving. E still says DR, Martinez occasionally but his nightmares have mostly stopped. Es protective of Luna in the most beautiful way, taking her to ride bikes and catch fireflies and be brave when the world feels scary. E plays Little League Baseball, Jets God grades, and as friends wo think the coolest kid in school because e helped save his mom from a bad guy. So metime si watch him playing with Luna in our backyard and him amazed by his resilience. Tis poi wo witnessed terrible things and carried adult secrets at 7 years old as grown into Someone wo believes deeply in the power of truth and the importance of protecting people you love. E show me that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's doing the right thing despite being terrified. The lesson I learned from that horrible day isn't just about recognizing red flags in relationships, though that's certainly important. It's about the incredible strength that can come from the most unexpected places. When I was at my most vulnerable, lying broken at the bottom of those stairs, I thought I was helpless. But I had a guardian angel in superhero pajamas who refused to let evil win. If you're in a situation where someone you trust is hurting you, please know that speaking up is always worth the risk. If you're a killed was witnessed something terrible, please tell a trusted adult. And if you're someone who suspects abuse is happening, don't stay silent. Sometimes the person being hurt can't find their voice, and they need someone else to speak for them. Finn taught me that heroes don't always wear capes or have superpowers. Sometimes they're 7 years old, scared and confused, but brave enough to tell the truth when it matters most. Sometimes the person who saves your life is the one you never expected, and sometimes the strongest voice in the room belongs to the smallest person. 3 years later, our little family is proof that love really can triumph over evil, that healing is possible even after the worst betrayal, and that sometimes the most broken situations can create the most beautiful bonds. Finn kept his promise to protect our family, and every single day I'm grateful that he found the courage to say those life-changing words. Doctor, should I tell you what Daddy did? If this story took you or if you know someone who needs to hear it, please share it. And if you want to hear more stories about resilience, courage and the power of speaking truth, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these important stories reach the people who need them most. So sometimes one story can change everything.